Hey everybody. I was gonna wait for people to come on in. I did a live stream earlier, but I had to cut short because of a phone call. I apologize for that because I would love to talk about this story about Tory Lanez found guilty by a jury in the LA County Court. I want to talk deep about that, but unfortunately, I had to take this phone call, so I had to cut this live short. So that's mainly the reason why I'm doing a makeup show, as you know. I'm still waiting for people to come on in, so we can have this conversation. So um, because to me, this is very, very important, and it's going to trigger some people. It's going to make people feel some type of way. Um, and for those of you that just come on in to my live, first of all, let me wish each and every one of you guys a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays. I know today is Christmas Eve and everything, and I know it's 10:04 in the East Coast, and I know kids will probably go to sleep to wait on Santa Claus the next morning. Um, and it's 9:04 in Central. It's 8:04 here in New Mexico, and it's 7:04 in LA, in LA time, which is Pacific time. So I'm just gonna wait for more people to come on in. We're gonna have this conversation, continue to have this conversation about my reaction to the guilty verdict of Tory Lanez yesterday. Um, because to me it is shocking and it's outrageous. It's very outrageous. So I'm just gonna wait for people to come on in and we're gonna have this conversation. And again, for those of you that already was onto my live, I apologize because I have to take an important phone call, so I had to cut the live short. But I am back. I am back in full effect, so we can have this conversation. I'm going to wait for more people to come on in, and I just want to say hey. And it's been a while since I do a live stream because I had a flu, and it's been a week. I lost my voice and everything, but I finally got my voice back after all this time. I'm still coughing, however, but my voice is still back. So, and I'm just trying to enjoy, my days off, off on social media for a while. But yeah, it's kind of interesting that for me, I have to want to talk about this case. I want to talk about what really went down in the Tory Lanez trial and why jurors decided to find this man guilty of all charges. So I'm just going to talk about, this is an important story, it's an important case, and I'm just going to wait for more people to come on in. So, um, how could I say this without offending nobody? When you have a past, any past, whether it's a criminal past, sexual past in general, and people just don't want you to know about that past, but it came up anyway because it's the court of law. Well, that's what happened in this case. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get started on this live stream. I know more people might come on in later on, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started on this live stream. And again, for those of you that came in early today, again, I apologize. An important phone call that I have to make to cut the live short and interrupted my live. But at the end of the day, and I'm glad I'm back. I'm glad I'm doing what I'm doing on this Saturday, on this Christmas Eve Saturday. Um, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started on what I'm talking about. Now, as you may know, if you basically crawl under a rock and everything, Tory Lanez, the juries reached a verdict in the Tory Lanez trial yesterday, and the jurors has found Tory Lanez guilty of all three counts I think one count is a possession of a handgun. The other was brandishing a handgun to Megan Thee Stallion. You know, but this case to me is kind of suspect from the get-go. It's kind of like a media circus period from the get-go. You know, when I talked earlier, as a Black man, I felt concerned. And I'm going to tell you why I felt concerned. I felt concerned because how they did Tory. You know, a lot of people have a lot to say about, well, if Tory Lanez would have testified, you know, the outcome would have been completely different. And I want to ask a lot of people, let's just say hypothetical, Tory did testify, right? Let's just say hypothetical, Tory said, okay, I'm going to testify and tell my side of the story. Now, if Tory would have done that, the prosecution, and this is how the prosecution is with the cross-examination. The prosecution would have went after Tory when it comes to the assault of August Alsina, and then other stories that Tory was involved in, and they're gonna picture a narrative that, see, Tory Lanez was the bad guy. If he assaulted August Alsina and others, this is, I mean, you see what happened to see what happened to Megan Thee Stallion. That's how the prosecution used their cross-examination. If Tory Lanez decided to testify. But I think with his lawyers, they give Tory advice and say, well, you know, I don't think by testifying will be a smart idea in their eyes, because they knew that if he, like I said, if Tory would have testified in his own behalf as a self-defense mode, the prosecution would have used that and say, well, you know, you say you didn't want to hurt women, you say you don't want to hurt Megan Thee Stallion, but what about the incident that happened when you assaulted August Alsina? That's what the prosecution was going. That's the prosecution was going to use against Tory. So I guess the attorneys have decided not to even allow Tory to even testify. But with that being said, before I was interrupted by a phone call earlier, the story was that Megan Thee Stallion was basically invited to a party from Kylie Jenner's house, right? And so, you know, of course, Megan FaceTime Tory, inviting him to Kyrie's pool party. Now, keep in mind that Kris Jenner, her boyfriend, was there at the time, and I'm very surprised that they didn't, you know, subpoena him to the stand. But anyway, so you got him, and you got EJ. EJ is Megan Thee Stallion's ex-hairstylist. You got him there. So, you know, Kylie Jenner basically was excited that Tory's coming. Now, you can tell that Kylie likes Tory a lot by telling Megan, well, you know, when is Tory's coming over? When is Tory coming over? I want to see him, blah, 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 right? Okay. Now, Tory came around, I think 30 minutes later, if I'm not mistaken, to the court's transcripts. So he came to Kyrie's house 30 minutes after Megan, you know, FaceTime him. Obviously, this was, excuse my French, this was a shit show from the get-go. And then when Tory came on, now keep in mind, Megan and Kelsey was, I mean, really, they had 67 bottles, tops. Now, I've been hearing that Megan Thee Stallion can outdrink anyone. And Kelsey was flat out drunk. In fact, she was in the pool, you know, literally nearly drowned. So EJ saw Kelsey, so he picked Kelsey up and took her to this, you know, because remember, Kylie Jenner got a bigger house. So he took her to this room that's like an apartment and lay her down, right? So with that being said, like EJ was concerned that Megan's hair was messed up. That was the original in court, what was going on when EJ testified. He was concerned that Megan's hair was messed up. It was so bad that, you know, he tried to fix it the right way and everything. Unfortunately, it didn't go as planned. So EJ just told Megan, let's just go, because, you know, the party was starting winding down anyway. So basically, EJ woke up Kelsey, and then, you know, her and Meg went to the car. Now, this is what's so interesting about this part of what I'm about to tell you. EJ saying that, you know, Tory's driver. Now, you know, EJ get all of both Kelsey's and Megan's stuff into Tory's car, right? So basically, if you roll with EJ take you to the party, was it right to go back with EJ? You know, even though EJ said let's go home, whatever. So EJ and Tory's driver got all of Megan's and Kelsey's stuff and put it in the car. Later on that night, you know, when EJ told him let's go, Tory didn't want to go because there's been allegedly chemistry between Tory and Kyrie is starting to get stronger and stronger, because reports that Kyrie likes Tory and vice versa. And I've been hearing that basically that Tory didn't have no swimming trunks, it's really boxers. The only thing he had was boxers at the time. So when both Meg and Kelsey rode with Tory's, you know, security guard, with Tory's driver, he headed back home. So Meg decided, I forgot my slippers, to go turn around. But realistically, Meg just said that so she can go back to, you know, Kyrie's house to confront Tory, and the jealousy started. This is all hell broke loose. And remember again, Tory did not want to leave Kyrie's house. In fact, I heard that Tory and Kyrie were about to get intimate. That's why all the jealousy, hating. And then keep in mind that Megan already drunk as it is. So when they went back to, you know, the Tory's driver, and, you know, and you remember, you know, Megan came back, confront Tory in front of Kyrie. Kyrie didn't appreciate it. And then that's when, excuse my friends, because there's going to be a lot of profanity in this, but really, Kyrie just told Megan, get the fuck out of my house. And so Megan, along with Tory, walk out of the house, and it was argument pursuing. Now, this is what's going to get really interesting, right? So basically, when they were driving it's like driving around like LA and stuff like that, an argument pursues between Tory, Megan, and Kelsey. And remember, Tory told Kelsey, he admitted that he slept with Megan. And that's when the argument between Megan and Kelsey pursued. Because remember, this isn't the first time that Megan goes behind Kelsey's back, sleep with Kelsey's men. Now remember, there's allegedly, which confirmed is true, that she already slept with the baby, and she already slept with net star Ben Simmons. That's been reported, and then sleep with Tory. So it ain't like that, you know. And then they brought that in court as well, about all the body count that Megan did. So the thing of it is that, the fight ensued between Kelsey and Megan, right? And then there's a witness. There's a witness that says that they saw a female with a gun first, and that female allegedly is Kelsey. So they said that, you know, Kelsey was going to shoot Megan. And then Tory heard the gunshot. I think he said pop, pop. And then that's when Tory got out of his SUV, as well as a security guard tried to break up Megan. Okay, so the fight was so bad that it really took basically Tory's security to hold Kelsey back. And that's when the shots. Now they allegedly Tory had the gun and shoot in the air, okay, and try to break up the fight. Now they said that that's why they see Megan had bullet fragments on her feet by Tory shooting in the air, and I don't think basically this was intentional or whatever. He was trying to stop the situation. So. And that's when you have a witness, an eyewitness says that he saw Kelsey with the gun first, and then that's when he saw Tory. Because remember, when it comes to Tory Lanez, they claiming that the DNA didn't match the magazine of where the bullets are. They didn't even match the magazine, and then they said that the DNA was inconclusive with the gun itself. And so when you have that situation going on, and then all of a sudden, basically, the word gets back now. You got Megan coming out, and basically you have Megan coming out on social media. And keep in mind, Tory Lanez didn't say a word, and I think his lawyers advised him not to say anything. But it was all Megan Thee Stallion, okay? It was all Megan Thee Stallion. Megan Thee Stallion said, well, Tory, you shot me, right? Which realistically showed that it wasn't Tory, it was Kelsey. But she blames Tory. And she do it to protect Kelsey. Now, basically, this is the reason why Kelsey and Megan have issues. And so, and it's been reported, this is all on social media, by the way. So Megan and her friends bullied Kelsey. And so you have Kelsey came back with a diss record to Megan called Bussin' Baby, I believe that's what it's called. But the reality is that during the trial, the prosecution, in my opinion, failed. Okay, the prosecution failed in this situation. They didn't have evidence, or they didn't have the smoking gun to convict Tory. And so when you have that, and then the defense did an excellent job, because basically, of course, when Kelsey took the stand, obviously Kelsey decided to take the Fifth Amendment on the agreement with the prosecution, because the prosecution and Kelsey made a deal to grant Kelsey an immunity, which means that so that she won't self-incriminate it, which means that she don't want to get herself in trouble. But as far as Megan Thee Stallion goes, Megan Thee Stallion lied 3 times in court, and then she lied to Gayle King on the CBS interview, saying that she didn't have sex with Tory Lanez. And so she lied 3 times on the stand, and she lied on her interview with Gayle King. So it shows you that Megan Thee Stallion is a compulsive liar. I'm just keeping it real. And she's a compulsive liar. Kelsey did the same thing, actually. And all the questions that the defense attorney, Sean Hawley, who is Tory's defense attorney, asking her questions, and basically so is the prosecution. And majority of the questions that they asked Kelsey says, I take the Fifth Amendment. I take the Fifth. Knowing that she's the one that the witness saw her had a gun on her first, that she the one pulled the trigger first. And the thing of it is that they're thinking that, oh, Tory is this and Tory, is a bad man. And this is what the prosecution was so desperate during this trial. They don't have nothing. The gun that was used were inconclusive. And it says that the DNA had a female fingerprint, a female handprint on it. And it's really funny, ladies and gentlemen, that they didn't even test Kelsey for gunpowder residue or DNA on the weapon. But it says it had evidence that it was they found Kelsey's gunpowder residue in her hand, but they never test Kelsey with the DNA of the barrel of the gun. So they didn't test. I mean, the thing of it is, the reality is that they only test Tory Lanez, which turns out that there's no proof. I mean, that there's no DNA of Tory's DNA of the magazine of the gun, let alone there's no DNA of Tory, which really says it was inconclusive. But they never test Kelsey's and they never test Megan's for the exact same thing. So really, basically, this trial was a shit show from the beginning. And it's so concerning that as a black man who's trying to fight for his life and to tell the world that it wasn't him. He even did an album, because remember, his attorneys do not want Tory to talk at all. Megan keep on going on social media to say, oh, Tory shot me and blah, blah, blah. You got celebrities supporting Megan at first. You got Bun B, you got Chance the Rapper, you got all these people supporting Meg at first because they all thought, they called Tory lame and everything else for shooting a woman, blah, 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 blah. It was all this hoopla, and this is way before even pre-trial hearing happened. So you have all this hoopla, and Tory did an entire album explaining the situation. Even though his attorneys are trying to carefully tell him, don't be specific about this investigation, but speak. I mean, and one thing about Tory Lanez, ladies and gentlemen, he's very talented. He's very talented, whether he's a singer or a rapper. But the attorneys was telling him, well, you could say, but don't talk too much about this case, about this investigation, right? So Tory did an album about what happened that night, along with the people that put their 2 cents in and making comments about him that doesn't even know what really happened that night. And so this trial goes on and on and on. And I will give a shout out, ladies and gentlemen, to Milagro Grams. Millie, and now you can check her out. She has a YouTube channel. You can type up Milagro Grams, and she was at the court. She was at the Tory Lanez trial, giving you blow by blow of what's going on. And you have DJ Academics and Millie, who's Milagro Grams, of course, talking about this case, the Tory Lanez case, and everything else. And what's so funny is that they didn't wait until like 48 hours at least because it's Christmas time and the judge wanted to spend time with the family, and you got got jurors who want to spend time with their families, and they basically just rushed this. Basically that's, in my opinion, they just rushed this verdict in a way because they want to go home and spend time in the holidays and in the Christmas for Christmas, right? So the reality is that what hurts me when the verdict was read, the jurors found Tory Lanez, as you may know, guilty on 3 counts. You have Tory's son, baby son, little son, little child, little boy, right? He was in the court. He was at the court crying. You got the father crying, and it's the thing of it is this case is so much reasonable doubt. It is ridiculous, and it's proven that Tory wasn't even, the evidence was clear that Tory wasn't even, the DNA didn't even match Tory's magazine and everything. And it was so reasonable doubt that the prosecution didn't have no chance of even beating this case. And again, like I said, the appeal, I mean, the reports now that Tory and his lawyers are planning to appeal this ruling, because to me, this is ridiculous. And there's been reports that Roc Nation was involved as well. And ever since Tory Lanez became independent, he refused to sign with Roc Nation, and that's why Roc Nation feels some type of way. You know, as a black man, it's basically hurtful. And a lot of people say that Tory, they blame, I mean, a lot of people blaming Tory, saying that, you know, a lot of people, and this is what's so sad about this. I see most black women on social media, including Twitter, celebrated the guilty verdict of Tory Lanez. Celebrated, like they did with the death of Kevin Samuels, like they did with Bill Cosby when he was serving 10 years in prison, like they did with R. Kelly, and the list goes on and on. It's basically, this is why a lot of black men are concerned, even, and this is some black men, I didn't say all, but this is what some black men are concerned, because they fear what their own women going to do to them. What Megan Thee Stallion did, and there's just been rumors about and this is another rumor of a body count that Megan had, is with YG, according to Tasha K. There's been reports that I don't know if he was messing with Kalani at the time, but even with Megan, Kalani had issues. That was like a couple of, I don't know if it was years ago, whatever, but they even had issues with that. So you have a record of what Megan was doing. You know, all the body counts that Megan had, it was just crazy. Because remember, Tory Lanez isn't the only man that Meg was dealing with. You had, again, Ben Simmons, you have the baby, and now then earlier YG. Anyway, the situation is this. It's upsetting as a black man to be convicted of a crime he didn't even do. Tory Lanez didn't shoot Megan Thee Stallion. Kelsey did. But yet, Megan wanted to protect Kelsey because they're besties. And I guess she regretted what she did to her, what she did to her behind her back, sleeping with multiple guys that Kelsey used to mess with first. It's pretty sad when you see a little boy, his son, crying, that seeing his father's got handcuffed by the LA County sheriff's deputies. It's really sad to see the father of Tory Lanez was very, I mean, he came out and spoke out and basically saying that, you know, this trial was a miscarriage of justice, and rightfully so, because I agree this is a miscarriage of justice, because there's no evidence linking Tory of the shooting. Even though they said that there's DNA of the first is the DNA of a female of the bearer of the gun, and then there's a male. And so when you have a witness, and remember, EJ is, when you have a witness, it's saying that he saw a woman with a gun, right? So this is just ridiculous. When I saw this, it's like the prosecution tried to ignore what this witness was saying. And so at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, it's to me, it's just showing you this is a miscarriage of justice. And Tory was wrongfully convicted, in other words, with this guilty verdict. Now, a lot of people, like I said, some women on social media is cheering, yay, yay, yeah, 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 yeah. Support Black women, protect Black women, and the Me Too movement, we did it again. The only problem with that is that since Megan lied, not only 3 times on the stand, but in Gayle King, excuse me, her career could be done. Nobody want to work with Megan Thee Stallion anymore because of this. You got a lot of artists that, well, you got artists like Rihanna, Nicki Minaj, and now Cardi B says she's distancing herself with Megan now. Even though they did an album called WAP. Cardi B said, nah, I don't want to be associated with that. So when you basically, what's hurtful about this situation is that Tory is going to spend 22 years in prison, in an LA County prison. 22 years over a lie. Let's keep it real. He gonna serve 22 years in prison over a lie. And then after his 22-year sentence, he may be deported back to Canada. Which to me, ladies and gentlemen, that is, everybody in this case, including Milagro Grams, said this isn't right. Some still support Meg and say, yeah, justice for Meg. But some said, you know what, the way they treated Tory in this trial, man, and there's lack of evidence against Tory Lanez as it is. You still find this man guilty of all 3 charges. You will still find this man guilty of all of this. And this is showing you how the criminal justice system is doing to Black men. It's doing to Black men. Look what happened with Bill Cosby. Even though these women most of these women who accused Bill Cosby of sexual assaulting them or putting drugs in their drinks, some of them lied. And they still found Bill Cosby guilty and sentenced him for 10 years in prison. What's going on with R. Kelly? Now, R. Kelly's situation, in the 90s, yeah, he probably, marry Aaliyah or, mess with minor girls there, but the people in the Black community didn't say anything. But now all of a sudden, fast forward, it came out, called R. Kelly a monster and this and this and this. And then, yes, I fought R. Kelly on that part, but I also fought the parents of the girls that want to see R. Kelly and everything else. And R. Kelly is now serving time for that. They try to do that with Chris Brown, too. They try to do it with all the Black entertainers now. Make them look like they're the bad guy. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, that when Tory Lanez, when I found out that, I took a nap yesterday. Let me keep it real. I took a nap yesterday, and I would give a shout out to the Crimson Cure. I watched the Crimson Cure, my beautiful sister, the Crimson Cure, and she told me that Tory Lanez was found guilty. I was like, what? What? After the lack of evidence, after a lot of reasonable doubt in this case, they still find Tory Lanez guilty of all charges. So I don't blame Tory Lanez's dad, and my heart goes out to his family, because this to me is, and it's absolutely right, this is a miscarriage of justice. Because if you have a lack of evidence that Tory Lanez didn't have any fingerprints of the gun, which they said it was inconclusive, but you have any fingerprints of the magazine of putting bullets of the gun, it shows you how the criminal justice system operates. And this is LA County. That we're dealing with racial issues in LA County anyway, but that's basically another topic for another time. But my point that I'm making is this: that Tory doesn't deserve this. All Tory did was, going to Kylie Jenner's pool party. And then when Tory and Kyrie getting cuddly, flirty, and everything, all hell broke loose. How Megan, and again, Megan was, I heard that Megan Thee Stallion can outdrink anybody. Because when Kelsey and Meg, they already had 67 bottles of liquor already. And according to Kris Jenner's boyfriend at the time, is asking, are we going to close down the party because most of the guests is already leaving anyway. But that's when Tory arrived, and that's when Kris Jenner's boyfriend left the house. But my point is that after what happened yesterday, after the verdict was read that he was found guilty of all charges, even though there was a lack of evidence, even though the prosecution didn't have a smoking gun or didn't have a case at all, more than likely he's desperately. And guess what? Tory's bodyguard or Tory's security guard, he was missing for a while. Tory's bodyguard was missing for a while, and I think Meg's bodyguard as well. At first, he really didn't want to testify. That's why he was missing. He didn't want to testify. And then the day, I believe, was it Thursday? Oh, no. Yeah, they waited last minute to finally bring the security guard to court. But it was too late because the judge said, no, we're going to end this right now. We already heard testimony on multiple people we want to bring to the stand. So they basically said that, because that's basically saying it was done. It was over, right? But then you have the thing when you have closing arguments. Yes, it was day before yesterday. It already had closing arguments. So the prosecutor tried to bring the ex-security guard to the stand, but it was too little, too late because they already got because people that had testified, they already got their testimonies, and they just want to go home for Christmas. That's all. They want to go home for Christmas for their families and everything else. I believe that was a miscarriage of justice of what happened with Tory Lanez. Because Tory didn't shot Megan. People talk about, oh, I'm glad that justice finally served for Megan. And people don't even know what's really going on, right? But it shows you, ladies and gentlemen, how the criminal justice system feels when it comes to Black men in this country. They don't give a damn. They overlook a witness that says that a woman, he saw a woman with a gun first, and that was Kelsey. And then after that, they said they saw Tory with the gun as well. But the reality is that you have a witness and you have EJ. You have two credible witnesses testifying, and the prosecution decided to overlook them. And I know a lot of people like Milagro Graham, and shouts out to her. Milagro Grahams did a phenomenal job reporting the Tory Lanez trial. She did a phenomenal job. I don't care what nobody say. You got people from the mainstream media try to discredit her. You got Megan's camp try to, take her out remove her Twitter account, remove her messages on Twitter and Instagram. That's Megan's camp. That's Rock Nation. So it's sad. You just found an innocent man guilty of all 3 counts. And really, more importantly, that Tory was saving Meg from getting shot by Kelsey. That's why you see them struggling with the gun. She was saving. Basically, she was basically saving. Tory was saving Megan from getting shot. And look what happened with Tory. This is the thing Tory gets. I mean, come on now. All because, let's be realistic. All because Megan feels some type of way. And they're not even, I mean, this is what I'm saying, that both Megan and Tory wasn't even in a relationship. They were just, you know, F buddies, we may call. And but Tory was trying to get with Kyrie and vice versa, and Megan messed it up for Tory, of course. But I'm gonna end this live with this, ladies and gentlemen. Tory will get an appeal. Tory's lawyers already said Tory's attorney Sean Hawley is working on an appeal as we speak. This isn't over, not by a long shot. Just because, you know, Megan Thee Stallion and them, they won whatever, and they found Tory guilty, and he will be sentenced to 22 years in prison and possibly a deportation back to Canada. But because of the lack of evidence of the reasonable doubt in this court case, Tory Lanez and his attorney will file an appeal for that. And you know how biased, you know, the state of California is. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for today. I thank each and every one of you guys for tuning in my live of such short notice. I had to redo my live again because of a phone call that I have to take. So I love you guys. I hope you have a happy holidays. I wish you a Merry Christmas. And hopefully I will probably do a New Year's Eve party, or I might drop by Information Man, see he want to do a New Year's Eve party, and we'll do our thing. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I love you guys, and I'll talk to you in my next live stream. Lions Den is out. Deuces.